Alright, let's talk about Skull Kids today. Yes, those fun, childish forest dwellers that play music. We have seen them in many games, but is it the same Skull Kid in each game? We see him for the first time in Ocarina of Time, and yet again in Majora's Mask, and again in Twilight Princess. Is it still the same Skull Kid by that time? And is his life more up than you might think? The first time we meet Skull Kid is in Ocarina of Time. Skull Kid can be found playing his flute in a clearing in the southern part of the Lost Woods. As a child, Link can play Seria's song for the Skull Kid. When this occurs, the Skull Kid, also a friend of Seria's, befriends Link, presenting him the piece of heart as a token of their newfound friendship. The next time we see the Skull Kid is in Majora's Mask. The Skull Kid is the primary antagonist for the majority of the game, being the one apparently responsible for the series of disturbances and disasters that have recently plagued the land of Termina, and seeking to destroy the entire land by pulling the moon out of its orbit and sending it on a collision course with Termina. But eventually Link stops him. Now how do I know that this is still the same Skull Kid? Well, he gives a very obvious hint at the beginning and the ending of the game. Upon encountering Link in the Lost Woods after having ambushed him, the Skull Kid appears to recognize Link, but deems it not to be a problem. Later, after the Skull Kid is removed from the influence of Majora's Mask, he tells Link that he smells the same as that fairy kid who taught him that song in the woods. Like I said, in Ocarina of Time, Link plays Seria's song to a Skull Kid in the Lost Woods, who becomes his friend after this. So it's clear that this is the same Skull Kid as the one we see in Ocarina of Time. But how did he end up in Termina? Well, since the portal to Termina is placed in the Lost Woods, there's a big chance that he stumbled upon it and ended up in Termina. But why would Skull Kid want to destroy Termina? He didn't have any grudges against those people. Well, it's explained in the game by Anju's mother, and a lot of people always forget about this story. A lot of people just say, oh, it was Majora's Mask who influenced him. But that's not completely true. I will tell you the tale. A long time prior to the events of Majora's Mask, the four giants lived in harmony among the united people of Termina. In particular, they befriended one specific individual, a small imp. However, as the world grew, the four giants divided Termina into four regions, in which four of the races of Termina would live, which would be guarded and watched over by the four giants as they slumbered. Before departing, they told the people that should any trouble or bad times befall them, they could call upon the giants with the oath to order. However, their friend the imp misunderstood their intentions and thought that they were abandoning him. Angered, he began to play horrible tricks and tormented the people of Termina. The four giants, being the protectors of the people, gave their friend the choice to either return to the heavens or be torn apart by them. The imp returned to the heavens, but somehow managed to descend to Termina again in the form of a Skull Kid. The Skull Kid's mischief continued, and he eventually obtained Majora's Mask, a mysterious mask containing intense destructive power. So it was not the Skull Kid who made the choices. It was the imp who probably possessed and manipulated him. Sure, the dark influence of Majora's Mask helped with this, but it was the imp who came with the idea of getting Majora's Mask. Think about it. We saw him in the Lost Woods, and not more than 6 months later, Link came across Skull Kid in the Lost Woods again, this time with Majora's Mask. All the events of that story did not happen in 6 months, since Anju says it all happened long ago, prior to the events of Majora's Mask. So the first part of the story happened long ago, and as soon as the Skull Kid came to Termina, the imp saw his chance. But luckily enough, Skull Kid turns back to his normal self after Majora is defeated. This probably also took care of the imp. But is this where the story ended? Well, we do see another Skull Kid in Twilight Princess. The Skull Kid is first encountered in the Sacred Grove, where he leads Link to the resting place of the Master Sword. Instead of acting purely as a guide, however, the Skull Kid plays a game of hide and seek with Link as they travel. In order to advance, Link must seek out the Skull Kid by following the light of his lantern and listening to Seria's song, which he is playing on his horn. The louder the sound becomes, the nearer Link is to the Skull Kid. Well, the fact that Skull Kid knows Seria's song has led me to believe that he may be the same, or a descendant of the Skull Kid Link played Seria's song to from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It is unknown how this lone Skull Kid came to survive. Considering other forest-dwelling races like the Kokiri and Deku have disappeared over the course of time leading to Twilight Princess. It's possible that either the Skull Kid race somehow survived, or that he's one of a few of them remaining in Hyrule, or even the last one. It is also possible that the other races moved out of the forest, while the Skull Kid race chose to remain there. Another option could be that due to his dark, haunting behavior, his pole-like lantern, and the ability to disappear and teleport around the sacred grove, he is a ghost of a Skull Kid. But how likely is it that he actually turned into a post-Skull Kid or some sort of ghost? Well, Poes are ghost-like spirits of deceased beings who hold hatred towards the world. We know that Skull Kid had a hard time before the events of Majora's Mask and also during. Maybe because of this mental burden, he turned into a Poe when he died, unable to escape the nightmares of Majora's Mask and the Imp. You watched the entire video, that's great! Click on the screen to watch more videos or subscribe to the channel, then you won't miss a thing.